The girl next door is a sweet, wonderful thing. She's kind, she is beautiful, she is extremely intelligent. She goes out of her way to do amazing things for other people. She's truly considerate. She is the gem of the community. She is the person who the main protagonist is always revolving around, and she's always revolving around them. And if you think that I'm talking about Noelle Holiday, you'd be wrong! I'm talking about Susie. Yes, it is true. Susie is the girl next door. Hi there everyone, Lars back with a long overdue extra look into some of the tropes and storytelling within Deltarune, brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And in this video, I want to have a look at the trope of the girl next door, and how Toby Fox is yet again taking things that we are very familiar with and flipping them on their head. And yet he's doing something quite remarkable with the girl next door. Rather than just simply making her, like so many other recent shows and movies have done, into a strong, independent woman who doesn't need the protagonist's love interest. Instead, Toby Fox seems to be taking the school bully and showing that she has always been the girl next door, while at the same time giving Noelle either a really great boost in her confidence and her own hero's arc, or turning her into a poor, traumatized, manipulated villain. But the Snowgrave route set aside, let's have a look at how Susie is truly as hometown as butterscotch pie. Now, I want to give a quick shout out to Polychi1998 for helping inspire this video, because they replied to one of our previous cruisy videos, pointing out that in the scene where you find moss in the hidden area, and if you decide to share it with Susie, the music suddenly changes. It changes to that of the girl next door. Now, that's music that we normally identify with Noelle Holiday. So why is it that in the middle of this silly scene and this sudden revelation, before you might get yourself an egg and you begin to realize that, oh, there's some bigger stuff that's at play here in this game, why in the midst of all of this will we suddenly get a musical change for a moment that really leans cruisy rather than for Noelle? And so I was stumped for a little bit. Why would Toby Fox choose this particular take of music? When, again, there's no Noelle here, so I began diving a little bit deeper. Let's have a look at the actual trope of the girl next door. This idea of the girl next door is something that originates from the 1930s, the 1940s, going into the high watermark of the 1950s, where, oh, young men, if you're going to fall in love with someone, you should stay away from those scandalous, black-clad, mysterious, dangerous, femme fatale women. No, you must marry the beautiful, yet plain girl next door, who has always been your best friend because she's always been there for you. This is basically something that stems from the idea of marry within your community, marry within your own way of thinking, your own religion. The strength of romance is in the familiar, not in the sexual and mysterious. Oh no, we must bat back all of that craziness that came out of the 1920s. And this actually stems in even older ideals, and not just within American society, but really in actually most rural communities around the world. But all of that aside, as this idea turned into an actual storytelling trope, it became this interesting tug of war between, would the good guy choose the good as American apple pie girl next door who, while she may not be the sexiest thing on earth, she's kind, intelligent, the community loves her, she's always been there for the main character? Or will he leave his hometown and chase after the mysterious, sexy girl who is tinged with danger? And most stories leaned with the guy choosing the girl next door, which clashed severely with real-life expectations but the girl next door doesn't always get chosen. In fact, usually she's the one who's passed up because she's the best friend. So you then have this warring opinion over who the girl next door should be, leading to multiple decades and generations grappling with their own idea of what the girl next door ought to be. But when you boil her down, again, who is she? She is someone who's always been in the protagonist's life. She is a part of the community knows her, she's usually very well beloved, she may be plain, but she's still pretty, she's intelligent, she's caring, she's resourceful, and you want her to win just so bad. And again, when we take the trope at face value, that looks like Noelle Holiday to a T. And we then obviously just say, okay then, well obviously when we hear this music, this is Noelle's music. And when Noelle is going to liberate herself, when she's going to go on her own hero's arc, she's going to end up with the class bully, Susie, by reforming her and so on and so forth. This is where our minds are immediately drawn to, and we can even actually see some of the stuff playing out where Caddy tells Chris, make sure that Noelle doesn't go after Susie because it's dangerous. Don't go after the sexy new girl. However, this interpretation already begins falling apart the moment that you start digging just below the surface of Deltarune. While it's very easy to accept the notion and the theory that Susie is a rather recent addition to Hometown, from what we've been able to gather so far, it seems as though all of the kids in the classroom have known Susie at least for a little while. There is a long protracted history there, which has unfortunately helped to solidify her self-perception as a bully within Chapter 1. But when Chris tries to befriend Susie, we see in the dialogue options a lot of little silly things being brought up that would seem to indicate that Chris has known certain aspects of Susie for a little while, that they've been observing her, that they know her to a certain degree, which puts Susie off guard, like, wait, what? How did you know about me? I'm just the bully here. No one pays attention to me. And especially when we get the deeper lore, thanks to some of the little side stories that Toby has given us outside of the game, we begin to realize that Susie has been around quite a bit. She is a part of the community. Granted, not a positive member of the community, but everyone knows her. She's been a part of Chris, the protagonist's life. And throughout the game, as you help Susie to overcome her tendencies towards bullying, towards self-depreciation, towards viewing herself as the villain and not really giving herself enough credit, when those barriers start coming down and she begins to realize just how great it is to have friends and just how fun and amazing it is to be a hero and to be cherished and be loved, we begin to see other aspects of Susie shine through. At the end of Chapter 1, you get that amazing sweet moment, the moment that kicked off all of my speculations for Cruzy, where Susie clasps Chris on the shoulder and says, "Let's go back tomorrow," with this absolutely sincere, amazing expression, which, as I've pointed out before, with the exception of Birdley hallucinating it, has only ever been given to Chris. This right here begins to provide a window into who Susie is, that despite her rough exterior, there is a kind and amazing girl beneath it all. And we get to see her as a friend, not just to Chris, but also to Lancer, to Ralsei, and we get to see her wanting to be friends with so many other people within the Dark World. This is the establishment of her friendships. This is the beginning of it all, and then she begins to want to become friends with Noelle, and then possibly even with other people. Sure, Birdley's a little bit weird, but you know what, you can tolerate him, and we've already gotten a really great moment of telegraphing to say that, yeah, despite how awkward it's going to be when this mashup finally happens, she's got to become friends with Caddy as well. So already, Susie's a member of the community, has been a part of the protagonist's life for a little while now, and she can be kind and caring. But not only that, Susie actually shows quite a bit of intelligence, which it doesn't come in this case in the form of book smarts. Noelle is the book smart girl next door. Susie's instead the wise girl next door, as someone who, even though she's new to this whole friendship thing, she actually provides some really good insights into the world and to other people. It's her words that break Birdley and help him to realize that he's been a fool this whole time, which makes him fall head over heels for her. She's also the one who provides the shoulder to cry on for Noelle, not necessarily for her to cry on, but a listening ear, someone that Noelle can rely on. And Susie's simple way of approaching a rather complex, awkward situation just brings down the tension and helps Noelle feel just a whole lot better about her situation. Susie may not necessarily be book smart, but Susie proves that she's actually very wise and very intelligent in other areas, thereby ticking yet another box for the girl next door. And again, the deeper that you decide to play into the lore and what's happening here in the game, you realize just how much of who Chris is as a person. Despite everything that we, the player, make Chris go through, so much of Chris's character, what are Chris's motivations, leading up to the crazy reveal at the end of Chapter 2, which we're still debating what the heck is going on, still all comes down to Susie. Chris orbits around Susie, and in many ways, Susie orbits around Chris. More so than any other characters that we've seen so far within this game, with the exception of Ralsei. As a result, yet again, Susie ticks off yet another box for the girl next door. Now, this is where things begin to get really interesting, because Susie obviously is not your typical girl next door. She does not fit the trope at all at the beginning. Instead, she's growing into it? This is strange because the girl next door is supposed to be firmly established when you meet her. We knew very early on with Noelle, you just have to talk to her, that this is the girl next door. And literally by the end of the game, she is the girl next door. She lives next door, basically to the Dreamers. So how can Susie then be the girl next door if she just grows into that status? It's all a part of her evolving character arc. Toby Fox, rather than saying, hey look, the character is this, and this is who they are, and now they've got to break free of that, Toby Fox is showing how characters can become very complex the more that you come to know who they are. When we first met Susie, she was a bully. Just 100%. There's no denying that whatsoever. But by the end of Chapter 2, we see her growing to be a kinder and better person. She now has friends. We get to see a softer side to her. We get to see her come to accept that mercy is a good way to go, and that just sometimes there are those moments where you do have to fight, but she no longer immediately resorts to violence. Oh, she's still very rough around the edges and very crude, but that's just actually a part of who she really is. She's just a funny, rough around the edges, crude individual who can be kind, caring, insightful, friendly. And so what I see happening here is, rather than Toby Fox taking the trope of the girl next door, which so many other stories take, firmly established at the beginning, and then break down into little pieces and then say, ha, see, this is a complex individual, he's actually going in the reverse route. Yes, he's taken the bully and then shattered the concept of the bully to show a more complex and interesting individual in Susie, but then he's building her up to be the girl next door. The girl next door in Chris's life. Someone who again is rough around the edges, blunt, crude, prone to violence in certain situations, but also seeks friendship, wisdom, understanding. She absolutely adores now being a hero. She's not book smart, but she is in a way street savvy. She's awkward as well in trying to learn what's going on here. She's shy in certain areas, and she is absolutely a tsundere. If you want to know more, please check out one of my previous videos about it. All of these things can be put into the girl next door. Rather than just simply breaking down the trope, Toby Fox is going in the opposite direction. showing how the school bully can become the girl that everyone wants. And she then also combines those aspects of the femme fatale, the dark girl, the mysterious, dangerous individual because of her previous bully status. Toby Fox is basically saying, look, it doesn't need to be a competition between those two types of women. I'm going to merge them together into one super heroine, that being Susie. And just to tie the bow on the top, just look at this. Susie's learning to make butterscotch pie by the end of chapter 2. Chris's personal favorite. Oh, one can only imagine what things are going to come in the upcoming chapters for her. How is she going to continue to grow as an individual, and what will this mean for the relationships that she's establishing? And while Cruzy itself is not necessarily a foregone conclusion, it's something that you have to go looking for. There are, I believe, really multiple romances that can be explored within this story. I think that if you want to understand more of what Toby Fox is doing with some very interesting tropes with the girl next door for both Susie and for Noelle, you gotta keep your eye on the Cruzy ship. So, with all that being said, let us settle back once again into the seeming eternal wait for chapters 3 and 4 of Deltarune. But if you cannot stand the wait any longer, then might I suggest checking out some of the books that I've written. You don't have to wait around for these, they are ready to be read. They're on Amazon. Links for them are in the description below. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing, and until the next time that we step into the dark world, my friends, tschüss.